undeniable homage to the Nazi movement in Triumph of the Will, were used to create an equally effective panegyric of the Olympic Games. Riefenstahl described the film's theme as beauty, a celebration of the grace and beauty of the human body. The idea of beauty itself, with no political purpose.
die Spiele von Berlin zur Feier der 11. Olympiade neuer Zeitrechnung als eröffnet.
The usage of slow motion achieves spellbinding effects. Like Triumph of the Will, Olympia creates an extraordinary atmosphere, well above ordinary life. Riefenstahl planned the editing before the actual shooting of the film, not after, with Dr. Fank as the assistant this time during the editing. I had the whole thing in my mind, she said. I was like an architect building a house. Harmony and balance were her keynotes. She strove to alternate tensions, to strengthen the sound if the picture was weak, and vice versa, to move from reality to poetry and back again. Several months ahead of time, cameramen scouted various training fields and all kinds of sports contests to be ready for any emergency and to be able to deal with any incident that might arise. They practiced focusing and moving about with their often heavy, cumbersome equipment. This vigorous regime was necessary because several cameras and techniques which were revolutionary at the time had to be used to obtain the results Riefenstahl wished. Miniature automatic cameras had to be developed so as not to disturb the athlete's concentration during the close-up shots. A catapult camera automatically followed the runners around the track on rails.
Now, the grueling 1,500 meters bring the decathlon to an exacting end. Huber challenges Morris for the lead. Morris glances round to see who it is and responds instantly. Overtaking Klein of Czechoslovakia, he goes into the lead. Once again, and for the last time, he's running on against the clock into the gathering darkness. Huber hangs on doggedly. But Morris's gold medal is a certainty now. He wants to beat his own world record. Huber's still there, sticking at it. Morris hugs ahead, tired but determined, the greatest all-round athlete in the world. Then Morris breaks the tape for the last time. He's beaten his own world record and amassed a total of 7,900 points to give America victory again. Second, Clark, America. Third, Parker, America. And fourth, Huber, Germany, the best European.
Cameramen lay in trenches to film the jumpers or sat in special towers in the middle of the stadium, the first time such towers were utilized, though they are quite common today. Balloons equipped with automatic cameras floated above the field, and although only 10 meters of every 1,000 shot turned out to be usable, some striking scenes were obtained.
15.08 meters. Regisseurin of Finland, the European champion. .59 meters. Richardson of Canada. No jump. Wellner of Germany. .27 meters. Oshima, Japan. .07 meters. Tajima, Japan. .76, new Olympic record. Metcalf, Australia. .50 meters. Harada, Japan. .66 meters. Now Tajima, Japan. New world record and gold medal for Japan. Here's Titas, 2 yards ahead of Higgins. Higgins. Ildefonso. Poiter. Ito.
For example, during the 10-meter dive, the cameraman had to dive with the diver, filming him as he fell through the air, underneath the water, and as they both rose to the surface. This meant not only holding the focus and adapting to all the light changes, but changing the lens itself at the bottom of the pool. Only about 5% of this film material was of any use to the director. All of the filming was achieved by only 33 people, including the scenes shot in Greece and during the long trek northwards from Mount Olympus to Berlin. At the games themselves, 6 cameramen worked in the stadium, 8 more with 8 camera assistants filmed the trials, and 10 non-professional cameramen roamed the crowds to capture reaction shots, while Riefenstahl herself darted everywhere, supervising, suggesting, even taking a turn on the camera work. But the true establishment of the form came from the editing. And this, Leni Riefenstahl did alone, literally living in the editing room for over a full year and a half. All of the sound was created in the studios, and only about 30% of the film material was actually used. And finally, in 1938, after the director had put the film together, it was the film standard for judging all future sports documentaries ever released. The question still stands today. Is Olympia a Nazi propaganda film? It is true that in the unexpurgated version, some 2 minutes are devoted to Hitler and the Nazi movement. It is also true that its celebration of sports as a ritual, a heroic Superman feat, represents an element present in Nazi philosophy. However, the scenes with Jesse Owens and other black athletes are treated as respectfully as those of more Aryan types. Not exactly a Nazi racial point of view. It would seem most clear that if Leni Riefenstahl had an obsession with health, strength, and beauty, which may have been peculiarly Germanic, it was not necessarily Nazi. It should be remembered that Olympia was commissioned by the International Olympic Committee and not by Adolf Hitler, on the strength of her experience in working on the mountain films. Passages in Riefenstahl's books thanking Hitler, Goebbels, and Streicher for their assistance must be taken with a grain of salt in view of the fact that these books were all published 2 years before the outbreak of the Second World War. And so, the question of questions remains. Was Leni Riefenstahl a Nazi? There is little doubt that she admired Hitler tremendously. She does not deny this fact. In 1934, Who knew how things would change? At that time, one believed in something beautiful. I took Hitler for a great and good man. I never dreamed him capable of evil. Leni Riefenstahl insists today that despite their admiration for each other, that she was never his mistress or anything near it. And her description of Adolf Hitler sounds more like that of a nice man who ran a small business than a lover or an idol. Riefenstahl's word was absolute law with anything to do with the filming of Olympia. And any press cameraman who had put himself where she thought he should not be was tapped on the shoulder by an attendant and handed a pink piece of paper. Remove yourself from where you are now, Riefenstahl. 2 pink pieces of paper meant physical removal, by force if necessary. But still, she had to contend with constant harassment during the games from Goebbels. The propaganda minister put every petty obstacle he could in her way. On one occasion, SS men tried to remove her only sound camera from the stadium, and she had to spend the entire day guarding over it. On the 5th day of the games, she was barred from the stadium on his orders, and she had to go to Hitler again to gain admittance. When she refused, upon Goebbels' direct orders, to edit out scenes of black athletes appearing victorious in the film, Goebbels tried to block the remainder of her finance at the Reichsbank. Goebbels carried his vendetta on to the personal level against Riefenstahl, going so far as to walk out of a social function when she entered the room, stating that he could not stand being with a non-Aryan, and claiming that she was actually a Jewess. In many cases, it is well nigh impossible to determine the truth of some of the specific charges against Leni Riefenstahl, since both she and her admirers tend to overreact to charges of fascism and to give different versions of events at different times. For example, the undeniable homage to the Nazi movement in Triumph of the Will, were used to create an equally effective panegyric of the Olympic Games. Riefenstahl described the film's theme as beauty, a celebration of the grace and beauty of the human body. The idea of beauty itself, with no political purpose.